So, hello everyone. My name is Helena, and usually there would be a Kelly here. We are Speaker Insight. We help speakers, authors, and coaches to build a business on your terms. And I'm going to assume that I am good and live at the moment, which is a very good thing. Kelly is actually in a different room. I'm just actually going to bring all the comments up so that I can see what's going on here as well. So just bear with me whilst I do that so I can see the comments that are happening. I will click for a little bit more and there we go. So now I can actually see that Kelly's joined and Beth has joined, and Anna Tsui is sitting in a slightly different room in London, however. I'll tell you more about how we met in a moment, but I'm just going to let all of you hop on and share a little bit of the buzz in our business before, just to let everybody kind of get here and settle in. Hi, Beth. Nice to see you, babe. Oh, hey, Kieran. Excellent. So, as I say, Kelly is hiding away in the other room. So you will see lots of whizzy comments. She's probably busy right now sharing this into the Connection Hub. And what is actually going to be happening is that for those of you who are watching on the replay, do a hashtag replay because we love a little bit of that. And bless her. So Kelly is the Speaker Insight that is currently commenting, I am here just dying quietly. So we've put her in a different room just in case she's actually going to have a coughing fit or something along those lines. So we don't want that to be the case for you. Yes, so she's hiding away. She doesn't want to be seen. You know what it's like when you're a bit poorly. So that's what we're doing. For those of you who don't know what the Connection Hub is that's actually the place where all the communication, all the conversation happens between speakers, authors, and coaches and the people who support them. So we actually have some really amazing connections, conversations, opportunities. So if you are a speaker, author, coach, please come in there and join in, because it is, if you are serious about being a speaker, author, or coach, you need support, you need loving friends, and you need connections. And so one of the reasons that I'm really delighted that we got Anna with us is simply because we didn't know Anna a year ago. And then we actually went on her summit, and that was incredible and amazing. And now here she is in the UK, and she spent the weekend with me, which is really cool. And it's just so good. So before I do anything, so Anna, get ready to share the buzz in your business. I would obviously love to hear the buzz in anybody else's business. So Kieran, Beth, what's happening that's exciting for you? For us, we have our retreat coming up this weekend, and we are really excited to be sharing and helping people create their businesses as speakers, authors, and coaches. It's just going to be a phenomenal weekend for the people who are joining us there. But the other thing is that our Connect and Create Day is now sold out. So snooze you lose. If you didn't actually kind of get in there, I'm very sorry to hear it, but you'll have to wait until next year. Might be a Christmas party coming in. Kelly's now going to curse at me, but that's how it goes. So that's the buzz in our business. Anna, before I get you to tell everybody else who you are and what you do, what's the buzz in your business?
The buzz in my business is that I got to spend a weekend with you and go to your amazing workshop. And I have the vision board that we did in the corner. I showed all my friends, and everyone that looked at it was like, wow, I feel this different energy in me now. We've just been talking about possibilities, and it's just from hanging out with you, Helena. How amazing. That is truly the buzz in my business right now. And it's allowed me to be more creative just in my journeys in London the past few days.
Oh, I just love that. I completely love that. And I know for a fact that you've been doing a little bit of a tour of your book, but more on that a little bit later. So I'm going to say hi to those of you who are here. Kieran's doing a male-only conference for men about abuse. That's amazing, Kieran.
Wow.
Pop the link in. Pop the link in. That's just phenomenal. So brave, so beautiful for you to create a space where that can actually happen. I really love that.
So do I.
And yes, please put the link in, because actually 2 people just popped in my head that might really enjoy coming to that. I say enjoy, obviously, with good reason. Now, Anna, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you're up to in the world.
Oh, that's a great question. So hello, everyone. I'm Anna Tsui. I'm the founder of the Intuitive Business School, and I am an intuitive business coach. And this is kind of a new thing for me in terms of claiming that title, because I realize that's part of my gift and that's part of how I help people. And so I am living now currently in Houston, Texas, and traveling around, and also doing fun things like this and running my business at the same time.
Amazing. And so for those people who are not quite sure what one of those does, tell us more about what an intuitive business coach does and why we might need one.
So I work a lot with intuitives. So people who are, I call them type A spiritual leaders. So people who are aware that there's something else other than a template in terms of how you can be and how you can run your business. And these are also people who, like you, are really in love with learning and growing themselves and others and transforming others. And the people that I tend to work with and attract are people similar to me and you, who are intuitive and who are also highly sensitive too. So sometimes we're not aware that we're highly sensitive, but highly sensitive people tend to get insights. They tend to feel things very deeply. And I didn't know this, but there are intuitive, highly sensitive spiritual people who are also very type A, like me, and we function in a different way. And that's why I love being part of this group, because a lot of the, I guess, information that's out there will have you market your business in a certain way, be successful if you follow these terms or these lists, these guidelines. And for intuitives, it's actually really important for us to be in our own way. So we might take a template and infuse it with our intuition. We might take something that is like a sales call, right? But then when we're sitting in our intuition, it becomes a different experience, right? Because we're really connecting with people on an energetic level.
And I really love the invitation of that. So I hope everyone really gets that whole, why Kelly and I absolutely love you anyway. We always talk about putting you at the heart of the business. And so using your own inspiration, your own intuition to actually go, that's not quite right for me. That's a little bit out of alignment. I love what you've just said about taking a template, but actually putting you on top of it. That's exactly the permission that we hope to give to so many speakers, authors, and coaches to build a business on your terms in that way.
Yes, absolutely. Because sometimes it's when we are truly ourselves, when we learn what our natural way of communicating is and what our gifts are, then, so for me, for example, if I'm, having a conversation with someone, let's say a sales conversation, because there's a structure to that, right? And then sometimes I'll just feel into my intuition and almost like throw the template away. It's just like, oh, I'm sensing that you feel resistant. Why is that? Right? Or I'm sensing that, and people feel things in different ways. Sometimes people see things, sometimes people hear things, I feel things. And just going in, even acknowledging that that's a thing, that's a gift, and being able to speak that out loud, that actually changes the nature of the conversation, and it builds this deep level of connection and trust. And in certain times, you just lean into your gift, and that becomes your sales conversation, right? Or that becomes the enrollment call, whatever it is. And that's why I think knowing your gifts is super important.
Oh, I completely and utterly love that. So I'm going to flip it on its head and actually go, okay, so there's definitely something about us using our gifts as coaches and following the feeling rather than following the script. And I really love that. And just kind of having the nudge of, actually, if I follow where this path is going, you end up serving your clients better. And so here's what's in my imagination. In my imagination, we likely, as coaches and as humans, so whoever you're actually kind of working with, we likely are our own blocks. So, if we're not, how do we get in our own way as coaches? How can we be those blocks for ourselves? We're not getting the clients, we're not charging what we're worth, etc. How does that show up?
Yes, so this is important to take an inventory. And that's why I actually might make a list of this soon, but a really easy way to take an inventory is looking at the different aspects of how you run your business. So looking at how you do marketing, looking at sales, looking at the finances, looking at visibility, looking at actual, the coaching that you do, the work that you do. And if you just look at all these areas, and in the book, I have you basically rank it on a scale of 1 to 10. So 10 being I'm incredibly confident and comfortable, for example, doing sales. 1 is not confident at all. And if you rank yourself in these different areas of your business, the ones that are lowest ranking tend to be areas where we have blocks and where we sabotage ourselves. And so that's, I think, a really an interesting way to just look at where in your business are you not fully showing up in your power. So for example, I think a lot of people have blocks around visibility. So it's so interesting. If you go deeper into the block, it's so interesting what the deep-seated fear is. A lot of times, these are the three common ones. One is if I am too visible, then my friends and family will judge me, they'll leave me. If I'm too visible, then everyone will see me fail. And then if I'm too visible, people will actually become jealous of me. So those are the top three that I hear all the time. And if you know that that's something that feels resonant with you, then that's probably blocking your ability to be visible, right?
Of course. And of course, a lot of the time that might be not necessarily a conscious thing, but it might be that we observe the behavior. Now that you've kind of highlighted it, in fact, we've got a couple of people who are going, love it, love it. There are little hearts flashing all over the place. There's all sorts of things going on. It's just that whole piece that's resonating, I think, with people. Once it's that whole thing of you can't unknow something once you know it. And now that you've made that a conscious thing for people, they might go, oh, I didn't realize that about myself. And one of the things I love about you being an intuitive business coach is that you kind of do shine a light on these things. So I love that you've got in the book, feel free to wave it around because it is really magnificent.
Yay! Shadow magic.
And the reason I say that is because actually I know that one of the things that you work with a lot for people to help them with what we were just talking about is you work with the shadow. So tell us more about what is the shadow and how do you work with the shadow side of people in your coaching?
Oh, I love this question. And it's so juicy. And how long do you have, right? So
we usually go on for quite some time, and it is 11:11 right now. So obviously you've got permission to just talk about it.
Yes, this is a perfect time. And for those of you watching, and for those of you watching the replay, this is the perfect time for us to connect. So the shadow and, different schools of thought. So, psychology, clinical psychology, Freud, and Carl Jung. The shadow represents basically, in that sense, repressed parts of ourselves. And then you go kind of on the other side of the spectrum where you go to indigenous shamanic healers and energy healing. The shadow is, in that sense, it's fractionated parts of our soul because of traumatic experiences or certain lifetimes. Our soul actually breaks. And so that forms shadow. And so the way that I refer to shadow, it is taken from those different schools of thought. So the shadow really is, it's our ego. So it's a part of us that wants us to stay the same. It doesn't really want us to change. That's very scary. And also it's part of our woundings. So it could be childhood woundings. It could be a wounding from an experience that you experienced last year. So it's parts of us that just feel kind of stuck. And when we feel into shadow, and this is actually really helpful, when we feel into our own shadow, it helps us feel into our clients' shadows, our audience's shadows, so we can deeply understand them. So when we're in our shadow state, it can feel very restrictive. It's a state of fear. It's a state of anxiety. A lot of people, when we're in a shadow state, we can be overthinking or panicking, and things are moving a mile a minute or kilometers a minute. I don't know if you say that actually.
Mile a minute is fine. You're okay.
It's moving very fast. But then when we're in, I call it our executive state, we have a presence. We're more calm. We're more decisive. And so a lot of times people find it helpful just to notice that there's these two, generally speaking, these two different states where you're calm, you're decisive, versus when you're in fear, you're anxious, it feels restrictive. So that's the shadow state. And it's not necessarily bad. So the shadow isn't a bad thing.
One of the things I love about what you've just said is that, of course, whether we're speakers, authors, coaches, certainly as coaches, if we're experiencing our shadow and how that relationship, how it shows up in others or in the conversations that we're having, just to be aware of that is, I think, an incredibly important piece, because that then allows you to really open up to more for yourself, which then, of course, opens up more for your clients or the people that you're speaking on behalf of, etc.
Yes. And a big thing, I think, for your audience would appreciate this, when we are noticing that we're in our shadow state in a conversation, and it could be a normal conversation, it could be you're presenting something, it could be you're having a sales conversation, we tend to want to over justify or over speak or over give or get defensive. So that's important when you notice that you're in that tight, fast moving space, because then you can just take a breath and come back into the conversation, come back to the presentation. And just being aware of it is so helpful. It's actually the first step, in getting any shadow healing or working on this, is noticing.
I really love it. So once upon a time, way back when I first was kind of learning around kind of this personal growth and opening in this way, I was given the phrase, simple awareness is often curative.
Wow. Yes, you said that this weekend.
Right. And so simple awareness is often curative is one of the most important things that I certainly know. And what I'm loving about what you're saying about this is that actually you're making it really tangible for us to work with the shadow, to not judge it, to not work with it, but to simply observe, oh, look, I'm doing that kind of behavior. Okay, well, maybe my shadow's at play. And so that kind of light curiosity with it is a really great way. I think you've got some really tangible, practical ways to work with the shadow by the sounds of things.
Yes. Would you like me to share one of the ways?
Yeah, I totally do.
Yes. So awareness really is the key. So when we are walking about in our lives, shadows will come up. So sometimes so here I'm in a new place, right? And then my shadow comes up, oh, people are looking at you because you're walking funny. And it's just like simple things like that. But if it was unconscious, then I might actually stay indoors more. I might not be as adventurous, right? So that's why it's important to notice when it's just a different energy that comes about you. And then it starts whispering these like fears and, just like doubts in your mind. And so what I did was I recognized that. And I just chose to be in my executive self. And so my executive self, I chose to be in a different energy. So I chose to be in the energy of curiosity, or the energy of just do it anyway, right? Or the energy of service. So choosing a different energy is helpful for us to reground ourselves and then continue on in the conversation. So I noticed that my friends and I were talking, and her shadow is getting very defensive in situations where maybe someone isn't even just questioning her, and she's brilliant and she's bright, but there's an old piece of having to prove herself because she's in a very male dominated industry. And so when she starts getting defensive, then it's about choosing a different level of the conversation, which is, oh, I don't actually need to prove to myself. I don't need to prove to myself or to prove to you anything. So I'm just going to start getting curious about what we're talking about. And that automatically places her at a higher level. So choosing a different energy, choosing a different intention brings you back to you and helps you to really recreate the situation the way that you want to, without that self-sabotage showing up.
See, that's just juicy. I think if people want to rewatch any particular little bit of this, I think they should rewatch just this little bit and play and practice with it today, right? Just at this moment. What I also really love, though, because I really want to get into this, because what I'm hearing is that it isn't necessarily all woo. It's actually tangible, practical stuff out in the world. So now I'm going to turn it around and kind of go. So you've been talking about energies and walking around in our energies. So if people know that they're not necessarily in an energy that's attracting clients in some way, or at that frequency where they can resonate with people and bring people in as part of the marketing that they do, how can they change that energy?
Oh my gosh, yes. So the tangible piece is you look at the people around you, you look at the people that you are attracting or aren't attracting, and this is the energy that you're sending out. And I know it can be incredibly frustrating. It still is frustrating for me as someone, and like you, Helena, who's been doing this personal growth work for it seems like lifetimes, right? I know it can be frustrating when people are like, but I've done the work, I've worked on myself, I've, hired amazing coaches, but still I feel like I'm not attracting the ideal clients that I want. And what I found, which is really interesting, and this is true for me too, and this is true for a lot of people I know and people I work with, a lot of times our ideal clients, we're actually scared of them because we think that they're way too successful, way more successful than we are. And why would they hire us? Right. And so we actually are putting out this energy of like, no, I'm scared of you. I'm not worthy yet. And then, but the energy that's coming out is shadow energy. It's like, well, I'm really only, available for people who really need me, but maybe can't afford me, right? Or I'm, attracting clients who I can get, right? And I'm really grateful for these clients, and that's true, and that's great too. But maybe deep in your heart, in your soul, you're like, well, I really want to work with this other level of clientele. And so, just for your listeners and your audience to just kind of check in and see if they are repelling their ideal clients in some way because of some shadow aspect, because of fear, whatever, because that fear is what's actually attracting sometimes other clients who maybe can't commit or are fear-based. And so just noticing who you have around you and noticing who you're scared of working with, that I think actually speaks volumes to where you are.
And if I then, it's solid and sound. And actually, even as you're saying it, I'm like, oh, there's a little part of me that resonates with that. Because of course, that's the juiciness of this, is we're always working at a next level, next level, next level. So as you said that, I was like, oh yeah, tick. So hopefully just even you saying that has actually kind of brought this up. I do just want to say this, that Kieran's just put a really beautiful comment in around this. He said, doubt can sink a business. Oh, hang on, it just moved. Doubt can sink a business. And if doubt sets in, then you lose the USP, which is you, which I think is just so apt for what you've just said, right? You just lose that. And Sudha's just actually said, even though I used to stand up outside, I felt people were putting me down all the time. So that whole do it anyway thing is also present. So we're recognizing and seeing it in this way. Sudha's also just said, I have seen this unconscious bias. When there is a male counterpart doing the same work as I do, people go to them. In some instances, they come to me for free or less expensive than they would pay for a male counterpart. So is there anything you could say to Sudha's shadow part that might assist her in actually balancing that?
Yes, we were just talking about this the other day. So this is, and thank you so much everyone for sharing. That's absolutely brilliant. And I'm really feeling your insight, and also really, you're going through the shadow stuff. And so I know it is, again, I'm going to use the word frustrating and maybe even quixotical to think that, wait, so people are, assuming that my male counterpart is more experienced and wants to pay them more, but they're not offering that to me, even though maybe you are actually more experienced or at the same level of experience. And the frustrating part really can be that knowing that there's a part of our energy that's not claiming that space, our expertise. And so Kieran said the USP, right? So just getting really honest with yourself, journaling, what part of me isn't fully claiming my right in this space? Because the things that we think make us I guess less worthy, right? Because we're a woman, we're a minority, we're young, we're old, we're certified, not certified, whatever that is. That's actually what makes us really valuable. And so a lot of times to mitigate the shadow is to actually get really clear on your value. Why am I more valuable? Because I'm a woman. Why am I more valuable? Because if we don't own that space, people won't believe us. If we don't own that space, but we're like, yeah, I demand to be paid just as much. You just kind of become this, I hate to say this, but you just become this person who is kind of just whining, right? Like trying to claim you're right, but you don't really internally know it or feel it. So I think to answer that, because I've been in the same situation many, many times. And I realize that internal judgment I have of myself. And actually, it's a bias that I have within me that, oh, so-and-so is more experienced than I am. But then when I actually look at it, I have different things to offer, or, I can also charge at my rate because of these things. And I get very clear on it. So I would suggest getting really honest and really clear of where we're not standing in our power and owning our own value. And that actually sets your presence and your energy up to, like you said, Helena, like attract a different level of clientele, because they know they can just feel your presence and your expertise. Just like sometimes we don't know anything about someone, we don't know their credentials or where they went to school or whatever, but we just feel that they have a presence. So for example, if you look at, these Buddhist monks who are now celebrities and they're prolific authors and writers, and Thich Nhat Hanh, you're not looking at their resume, you're looking at the presence and power and impact that they have in the world, right? And so, yeah, Pema Chodron, the female counterpart of that.
Yeah. Totally. And I love what you're saying there. And there's a couple of really good comments that are coming in. So I'm just going to highlight those from Alison in a moment. But I love what you're saying there around the fact that actually just the space of claiming can shift the energy, that little piece. And again, some really tangible, practical things to do. And here comes an addition from Alison around the questions that you were just asking. I really love this question, Alison. So glad you've joined. Oh my God, you put Alison and Anna in a room, and that's going to be a juicy conversation. Wow. Sorry, just having a moment there by myself. Now, so Alison said, so one of the other questions in addition to what you were saying was, and what part of me, so this one particularly for Sudha, but take your own spin on it. what part of me has taken on the belief that men are the only authorities?
Right. Wow. I just got chills. That is a
Right?
great question, Allison.
Like I said, you two in a room. Whoa, I'd just leave you in there. I'd lock the door for a while, provide you with some tea, and off you went.
It would explode with rainbows.
Did it? Yeah, exactly. And Alison also pointed out that it is both personal and cultural. So, you know, sort of like looking at where the influences are coming from for that shadow side that's coming in. Siddha actually then said, I asked, so in result of this question, I asked for the equal pay to my male counterpart, and it got her fired.
Wow.
And she said, I could have taken them to tribunal, but that will create more issues for me. So there's definitely some stuff here that's coming in. I think Alison might be up for a cup of tea with you.
I love that. Yes, I need to come back. And so to answer that previous, you know, the person who said that she asked for equal pay and then got fired. So that I think is part of our journey that empowers us to do the work that we do in that specific space of transformation. So in that case, I wouldn't say, oh no, look at your limiting thoughts and why, you know, like why you thought you would get fired for speaking up for yourself. I mean, I actually think that there are just things that happen in our lives that put us on a trajectory, a journey towards our greatness, right? Towards helping people in our space. And so sometimes it's great to analyze, and sometimes it's just like, oh, this shit happened. What can I do with it, right? How can I be with this in my executive self and really live into my destiny? So like, I love that. And I'm sorry that happened. That's awful, but it's also kind of exciting. You know, you have this fire to work with.
Yeah, completely. And I really love this. So I love this juxtaposition also, the simplification of, but knowing that there are layers and layers underneath it of my shadow self, my executive self, and like actually just knowing which one I'm stepping into at any point. Kieran's just actually saying, people will come to you if they know you will help them. If you do not believe you can help them, you will show it in conversing with them. First rule of karma, you reap what you sow.
Wow, we have some pretty profound people in this group.
You know, this is what I love. So if you are a speaker, author, coach who's not actually currently part of the Connection Hub, do come into the Connection Hub, because this is the kind of conversation that we love to have about all sorts of things, very tangible and practical. And today, just a little bit more kind of, we always talk about kind of you at the heart of it, and the yin yang kind of piece of running a business is partly about the tangible, practical, tactical things that go on out in the world, with the strategy that sits underneath it, with the management of your day-to-day. And it's a perfect blend of you. And so there's always kind of the grow your business element of it. So I love that you're here actually sort of talking about this. And so I really do want you to have an opportunity to showcase the book, just because actually I don't think that many people out in the world do that yin yang piece. And I think the book is a beautiful kind of version of it. So if I was to get it, what would I get out of that?
So I love that question. I'm trying to remember what's in the book, because it's just like a channeling of stories and experiences. And I think a lot of people can relate to some of the stories in there from some of the clients that I worked with. So basically, the book outlines how to identify your shadow and what it is, and how to really use it to help you connect with people in your audience, right? People in your life. But really, the key component of the book is just exactly what we talked about, like that little snippet that we shared earlier on. It's just recognizing that we have a shadow self. We have actually multiple different parts of us that have different shadows. And because in our industry, which is very competitive, sometimes you just see the success stories of people making millions, and then being featured here and there, and then we freeze. And we're like, wait, why aren't we having that same level of success, when really they don't share the whole story? And so a lot of us, we feel bad, especially intuitives, because we operate in a different way and we feel things. And the book is more helping people understand that right before you're about to do a launch or a project, your shadow will come out. Because remember, it's part of your ego. It wants you to stay safe. It wants you to, and sometimes that shows up as fatigue. Sometimes it shows up as sickness. Sometimes it shows up as chaos unfolds in your life. And for a lot of people, like for me, I got stuck in those patterns, and then I realized I wasn't really growing my business. Why is that? Oh, because every time I had a launch, all this stuff would come up and I would get sick, right? And somehow people were coming from out of town. And then I just couldn't move ahead. But just knowing that, oh, that's shadow, and I can do the work to heal it, but also continue to move forward, that's very soothing for people, right?
It really is. And on a very personal level, I think you've just answered something that's just kind of sitting inside me, because, yeah, so I'm grateful, and I say that with thanks. It's a
Cool.
really amazing thing to be able to, as part of a natural process. Yeah, good. I'm glad. So I was actually saying that partly for Kelly and I, and she's just owned up to it in there. So it's all good. So we're good with that. So what I'm really gonna say is this, is that I love how you are bringing that blend of, there are practical, tangible things we do out in the world, and there's us, and those two things do marry up. And actually, by embracing them, by being open to looking at what those things are, in the face of us up leveling, in the face of us wanting to attract more clients, in the face of us doing whatever it is we do in the business, just knowing that this is a natural thing rather than a, oh God, why does this always happen to me thing,
Yes.
actually gives us permission to just go ahead and break those boundaries that little bit more, and actually step out and serve the world in the way that we want to serve the world, whatever that is, right?
It's so freeing, right? It's like, it's not about me as a person, I'm a failure, shadow stuff. It's, oh, this is natural. And also another time when the shadow really shows up. So right before a big launch or a project, or you're taking a risk, and actually right after success. So even after you've had a really successful launch, or some clients came out of the blue, or opportunities came out of the blue, right after that is usually when people freak out, and the shadow comes up, and it's like, you'll never be able to do this again. Like, this is just a one-time thing. You're not good enough. People are going to find out you're a fraud. So just be aware of that. And when that comes up, just know, oh, it's actually very normal.
Oh, do you know what? And Beth has literally just taken the words out of my mouth. This insight is very empowering.
Oh, I
And,
love
and,
that.
and
Thank
it
you, Beth.
really is. So thank you, thank you, thank you. So I am pretty certain that, and honestly, I would recommend that everybody hangs out with Anna, because she's just a goddess, sort of like just a brilliant human being is all I can say.
Well-rested goddess, right, Helena? Well-rested goddess.
Good point, well made. The vision boards at play here, right? A well-rested goddess, indeed you are. So I am sure that people will want to connect with you. So what is the best way that people can connect with you and be in touch with you?
Please find me on Facebook. Find me on Facebook. I just did, I've been doing a few Facebook Lives just on my trip here, and we should have done one. Oh, okay, maybe on Friday we'll do one.
We do an Insta.
That's true. That's true. Yes. Yeah. So find me on Facebook. And then if you want to look up the Intuitive Business School, that's just a group that I have on Facebook. But find me on Facebook. I'm happy to connect with you. And on Instagram.
I'm just letting you do that bit. And I'm now smiling at Alison, who is obviously wanting to nab that role that you've created for yourself, because she says we should all aspire to be well-rested goddesses and gods.
Yes.
Yes. Which is really good. Quick question from Kieran, actually, that's just coming in, which is, has Anna heard of the process of, I've got my glasses on, so I'm still going to peer at the screen, of kintsukuroi, using gold to repair broken pottery and more valuable? I completely and utterly love this. That was the image that was in my head. Can we link in the shadow self?
That's so funny you said that, because that's actually in the book. I'm trying to find the, I love it. Yes, I get it. Yeah, absolutely. Kintsugi, and they might call it different things, but yeah, it's in the book. So it's absolutely right, because parts of our shadow, there's different schools of thought that want to kill the shadow or get rid of it. I just want to push through it, but really it's a part of us, and it actually makes us more powerful. So that gold joinery that you mentioned, where they would use gold to basically make whole these broken pieces of ceramic, it actually makes it more valuable. And that's exactly who we are and our experiences. But we need to be the ones to believe in that first, and to know that first, before we can help other people see that. So I hope everyone on your call, I feel like that's the main point, is we need to own that space, own our space first. And then it just, us and our presence becomes medicine for others.
And I love that as a concept. So you are delicious medicine for many, many who will watch this. And I am just so grateful that you are now in our lives, which is just amazing. And Alison says, oh yes, of course it is, Alison. I've just realized that. Alison's just said that whole concept is in her book too. So seriously, I'm going to lock the two of you away in a room and see how we do that. I'll see whether I can organize that whilst you're still here, which is great.
Nice.
So on that note, I am just going to say grateful thanks for sharing all that you've shared, because I think sometimes it is necessary for us to remember that we are humans on a beautiful journey of service to all sorts of other people, and stuff comes up, but it is normal and natural. And you made it so easy for people to actually see that. So my grateful thanks.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Thank you, Kelly, in your room.
And hopefully she'll be better so we can actually physically, all three of us, be in a room on Friday, which is
yes.
Many blessings to all. Take care.
Bye, everyone.